Welcome to the Biz Connection, a show dedicated to the education, motivation, inspiration, and empowerment of business entrepreneurs everywhere. Now, here are your hosts, Jim Rossetti and Ron Nielsen.
Okay, here we come at you once more. We are talking business right here on the radio, and another great week of being business overrun. We champion entrepreneurship on this show. And that's what we do. And if you've been listening, you know that our show basically features a lot of guests from the business world, business experts, business coaches, business authors, hard-working entrepreneurs. And on the Biz Connection, we just champion entrepreneurship. And I'm your host, Jim Rossetti, along with Ron Nielsen. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning, Jim. Good morning, everybody.
Getting a little ahead of myself this morning, but that's okay because that had to come out anyway.
It's better than being behind of yourself.
That's right. Anyway, we like to. We got a great show today. You picked a super guest. He's well educated. In fact, I feel a little intimidated. He's too well educated. He's got a PhD.
He's a lot smarter than I am, I can tell you that. That doesn't take much.
That's right. You don't have to go far to beat that. Anyway, we as you know, our show has one mission, and our mission is to educate, to motivate, to inspire, empower, and yes, if we can entertain a little bit as we go along, that helps too. But they all kind of tie together. Do you notice that? All those elements.
They do.
So, and I think week after week, I just keep as we go into the shows. There's so many things that you learn from our guests that come out here.
Absolutely, I learn something new every week, and I know this week is going to be no exception.
Well, and you see people that are willing to climb hurdles, to go over obstacles. There's always going to be something in your way. There's always going to be something to stop you, and it's the people that too easily get deterred are the ones that just maybe they're not cut out to be in business. So
that's right. Perseverance is a key quality.
But anyway,
we've talked about that.
That's right. It goes with the territory. That goes with the territory. Anyway, you got some your list of what successful people do. I'm intrigued by that list.
Yeah, every week at this time, we kind of go over some things that would be of interest to entrepreneurs and business owners. And last week we started going over a list of 15 things successful people do. It's kind of an offshoot of one of my favorite books, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Excellent.
Well, this is just kind of a list. So I'm going to go through some right here.
Okay.
And one of the things successful people do is always be alert. A keen sense of awareness breeds success. If you're not keyed into your environment, you're going to miss opportunities. And today we're going to be talking about some opportunities. And then here's the word I just used before, persevere. Truly successful people never give up. Do they ever fail? Yes. But when times get hard, their stamina to move forward doesn't wane.
And there's always going to be good and bad days. There's going to be days when you say, I just don't know if I can survive another day, and you do, and then the next day that that surge. So you're not always going to be on the high. So it's the self motivation.
That's right. The only time you ever lose is when you quit.
Right.
So don't quit. And then communicate with confidence. Those who are successful have an ease for convincing others. They don't manipulate or pressure, but logically explain the benefits of their product or their service.
Right.
Another important quality is to display humility. Most successful individuals actually lack an ego, despite what you see on television sometimes.
Right.
It's their fault when they fail, and they accept that. Hold yourself accountable for every aspect of your life, your business and your personal life. Then be flexible. Plans may change. Successful people learn to roll with the punches. We've heard that before.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than getting frustrated.
Took me a lot of years to learn that.
That's right. Rather than getting frustrated, swiftly maneuver in another direction.
You get tired of getting hit in the face, so you just got to roll with those punches.
And finally, this is kind of an offshoot of the name of the show, Make Connections. Specifically, Biz Connections.
Biz Connections, yeah.
Successful people often attribute their achievements to the help of others. You can't and won't be able to do it alone. Invest in generating mutually beneficial business connections and partners.
Good stuff. Well, that's why I think most entrepreneurs that I've known have sought out a mentor, somebody they could actually. And one of our resource partners on this show, and I just quickly want to mention because I'm a SCORE volunteer, I volunteer my time and effort to help small business people in usually the startup phase, but even the ongoing phase, the mature phase of business. Some people started a business. They may be out there for a while. They find themselves, hey, we did well for a while, but now all of a sudden things have taken a little bit of a nosedive. So, hey, I may need a mentor. I may need some help. And that's what SCORE supplies.
A mentor and a coach.
Yeah. Anyway, there's 14,000 some odd all over the United States of people that volunteer their services. They're not all retirees. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are active people that have their own business. They just want to give something back. So
that's right.
But a lot of
resource to draw on.
Exactly, and then when we get them to a certain level, we hand them off to a business coach. You know anybody, Ron?
I know somebody.
Good deal.
He's really good too.
Good deal. Here's one of the couple of quotes that I wanted to motivational quotes. I had 12 great motivational quotes for 2013, and we've given most of them here. Number 8 was freedom, privileges, options must constantly be exercised, even at the risk of inconvenience. Mm-hmm. And then another one here is take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live.
That is true.
And our guest today is going to teach us a little bit about how to take care of atrophy in our muscles.
That's
is
right.
One of the things.
He's built a business around that.
We talk a lot about patents. We talk about inventions. We talk about creating a product. He has done that, and he is quite an interesting gentleman to talk to. And I think we're going to get a lot out of this interview today because he invented something, he got it patented, he went through all the steps. So
and he's got a business now.
And he's got a business. And so I think it's going to be a good one. Anyway, we got every week, if you've been listening, you know that we profile a mystery entrepreneur, somebody we like to ask listeners out there to guess who we're talking about. And this week, you've got a good one for us.
I've got a good one.
This is a Wisconsin entrepreneur.
This is a Wisconsin entrepreneur, a very famous name in Wisconsin.
Tying in with the summer and the nice weather and all that good stuff.
That's right. Hopefully nice weather. Just to put it in perspective, this individual was born in 1914 in Milwaukee, and he happened to pass away in 1998 at the age of 84. He began his career as a radio broadcaster. Maybe there's hope for us, Jim, at WISN when he was only 13 years old.
Wow.
So in 1931, when he was only 17, he went to Chicago, landed a full-time job with CBS as a staff announcer. This was before he finished high school.
Sure.
Then the war came along, and he worked as an instructor for the Army Air Corps. Following that, he worked as a pilot, an airline pilot. In 1949, he attended the Chicago Railroad Fair and saw a show on the waterfront. This is a great clue. On the waterfront, for that forever changed his life. In 1952, he began a thrill show. With 3 years, he had as many as 4 shows on the road simultaneously. He introduced colorful costumes, skydivers, Polynesian dancers, I think that was probably my favorite part, and production themes. He consequently took his performers to 4 world fairs, toured the military bases. His show proved such a success that the Chamber of Commerce in this famous tourist destination in Wisconsin invited him to make his show a permanent attraction in 1953. Are you getting closer?
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you.
His show significantly contributed to the city's rise as a major vacation destination, and over 20 million people now have seen his show. And in fact, I just saw a segment. This is kind of on the anniversary of the time when Lake Delton they pulled the plug on Lake Delton.
Disappeared for a while. Yeah. Strange situation.
His show was actually on Lake Delton, so his show actually disappeared for a while.
There was a house that disappeared on Lake Delton. Some guy saw his house floating down
and
what a thing to wake up to.
and while he was the creator of this famous show, he never actually participated in the sport that made him famous until he was 70 years old. So who is this famous Wisconsin entrepreneur?
You mean he actually didn't get part of the act until 70?
He didn't.
Wow.
He didn't.
Okay, I didn't know
So
that
who is
part,
this
yeah.
famous Wisconsin entrepreneur
Should be an easy one
in
for
this
folks.
wildly famous tourist town in Wisconsin?
Yeah, and that name is still big today. If they anybody that's been to the Wisconsin Dells would know who it is. So
That's right. You gave away the city, so now it's really.
Oh man, did
You
I?
better rush to your computer.
You gotta, go ahead to our website and go ahead and email us who we are talking about. That would be bizconnectionwi.com is our email. That's our web address. You'll find our email address on there. With that said, how we doing on time? We getting ready to take a short little break
We
here.
are.
All right. Just let folks know you're on America's all business talk show on the radio. And want to remind you that behind every business, there's a story to tell. And on the Biz Connection, we're telling them. So stay with us. We'll be back right after a message or two.
Good night, my love.
Okay, we're back. We are talking business right here on the Biz Connection, and got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking. This next segment is going to feature one of our sponsors, which is Mr. Tom Wilhelm, who is a patent attorney, among other things. He does copyright law. He does trademarks. He does a variety of intellectual properties and that type of thing. So we call this little segment Idea Protection Tips from Tom, and we're going to play one of the questions that was posed to Tom in his office a couple of weeks ago. So, we ready, Ron?
We're ready. Here we go.
Let's do it.
Hi, Jim Rossetti here. I'm talking with attorney Tom Wilhelm at Wilhelm Law. We're in his conference room today just talking about ideas. Got a question here, and as a SCORE mentor, I sit down with a lot of people, and they're a little afraid to disclose their ideas to me because they think I might steal it before the end of the day. Is it possible, Tom, to protect our idea when disclosing it to business mentors, advisors, or consultants?
Well, Jim, that's a great question. And the good news is, yes, it is possible to protect the idea. The bad news is we do still want to be careful about all the people that we disclose our ideas to. The risk is that somebody can take that idea and steal it from you.
Sure. Yeah.
The typical way that we have people protect their ideas is through the use of what is called a confidentiality agreement. You might also hear it called a non-disclosure agreement.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And what that agreement says is that essentially says that the person you're disclosing the information to will not use it, not make any use of it without your permission, typically permission granted in writing so that there's some record that you granted that permission.
Mm-hmm.
The bad news is that those agreements are very difficult to enforce in court.
Right.
So
right.
those agreements are best used as a way to help you determine whether or not you want to actually disclose that information to that person.
Mm-hmm.
If they will agree to sign an agreement of this nature, most people will honor that agreement, and you won't have a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
People who refuse to sign that agreement are typically telling you that they had no intention of honoring that kind of an agreement anyway.
Sure.
So you use that as a means of determining who will I disclose this information to, or who will I simply
Yeah,
not
if
disclose
somebody
it
is
to?
readily willing to sign that, you're more apt to say, okay, this person really has no intention of stealing my idea and running with it. So,
Right,
yeah.
but there's another piece here too, and that is that don't be surprised if the person you're asking to sign that agreement says, "Let me run that by my attorney first." I mean, that's a legitimate request.
There you go. Okay, hey Tom, thank you very much. Once again, if you want a question for Tom, every week you'll be joining us here on Idea Protection Tips from Tom, and all you have to do is go to bizconnectionwi.com and let us know the question. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks for having me on, Jim.
Okay, so we can protect our ideas, or at least deter people. Maybe that's if somebody does steal your idea, you still might have to go after them.
That's right.
And cease and desist letters and all that kind of stuff goes flying around for
And
a while.
our guest today has gone through all of that.
Yeah, that's why I'm fascinated. Gentleman that's joining us this morning is a founder of a company, VibeTech. Is that correct? Jeff Leismer is our guest, and Jeff is not only the founder of the company, but he invented the product, and that this is named after. So, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Well, guys, thank you so much for having me.
Let me put you a little closer to the mic, Jeff, because I think we're going to have a hard time hearing you. Now, you started with a well, first of all, let's digress and just talk a little bit about your background and what led you up to the invention here.
Well, sure. So early on, I actually got some inspiration from my parents who worked with people with developmental disabilities. And as a kid, I got to hang out with lots of folks that had physical challenges. So I understood how difficult it was for them to get about their daily activities. So I think that kind of fed into my decision to go on for a degree in biomedical engineering.
Well, you knew there was a market.
Oh, I realized there was a market there.
You grew up with it.
Were you actually thinking of starting a business at the time, or were you just pursuing your passion?
Well, I always loved inventing new things. I loved art, and just actually I think art I used as a means to help me create new concepts and do things differently than they've ever been done before. So it was kind of using art as a means of thinking about things differently. So yeah, I ended up doing a degree in biomedical engineering to pursue some of that passion. And during my time as a student, I came across a professor that was working with astronauts coming back from space. And that was such an inspiration for me that I decided to take several courses with him, brought him on board as my advisor, and I said, I would love to do some projects with you to help overcome some of those challenges the astronauts have.
So this professor was truly spaced out. There's no question about it. So,
Absolutely.
Okay. But he knew there was an area that really, and a lot of things that are coming to fruition have come as a result of the NASA program and the space. So there really isn't anything new that but they're taking a while before they hit the market.
Well, yeah, there's tons of examples of products. If you go to the NASA website, they do a great job these days of broadcasting all of the different things they do. They've got a virtual city that you can go and explore and see in every room in the house inventions that were NASA inspired or were developed with funding from NASA.
Do you remember the days of Tang, Ron?
I do.
So am I dating myself that far?
You are, but I do remember it, so I think we're dating ourselves.
I still enjoy Tang.
Tang. Powdered orange juice. I mean, who could forget Tang? So, but the inspiration was there to do this, but to have the inspiration and all the things you had to do to lead up to this, or the education period.
It did take some time. The very first thing that I did was recognize that my advisor was an exercise physiologist who understood all of the problems the astronauts had. He could convey those, but it was my job as a biomedical engineer to solve those problems. So after doing a first project successfully to basically give the veins a workout, it's not just muscles that need a workout, it's muscles, bones, veins, the nervous system, everything needs to get engaged and stay active, or else they all atrophy and essentially become useless over time.
Yeah, I learned some things just before the show talking to you this morning, how quickly the atrophy process begins when you're not utilizing these muscles. And
absolutely. When you lose 5 to 15% of your strength per day in complete immobilization, which eventually tapers off, but it's something that it takes a lot longer to get back.
5 to 15%. So at the end of a couple of weeks, you're totally without.
That's why it takes time to relearn how to walk and much more time to get your strength right back.
Okay. All right, we're talking with Jeff Leismer this morning, and he is an inventor and developed a product. I think it's biotechnology, if I'm correct. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, you're listening to America's All Business Talk Show on the radio. We're coming right back. Give us a couple of messages, and we'll be right back with you.
If you ever decide to motor west,
Yeah, we are back talking business right here on the radio. Our guest today is Jeff Leismer, and interesting gentleman to say the least. On the break, we were talking a little bit. Jeff, you were telling me that you had worked for Kohler for a time. Along the way, that was one of your stepping stones. And then you were at research and development for Kohler. What
right.
futuristic products that they might use 5 years out. But that a layoff from Kohler actually helped you pursue you on toward your goals here. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
And, I got to start trying to get my company off the ground, but having twin boys definitely made it so I had to look for some additional sources of finance to get things going, which... the work I did at Kohler was a whole lot of fun, and it was a great initiative that Kohler had to
and a good company.
explore things. Yes,
sure. Yeah.
But one of the things you did then, I understand, did you get the idea for VibeTech while you were there?
So VibeTech came along before that. I actually incorporated the business a little bit before I started to work for Kohler Company.
So one of the things you did was you protected yourself.
I did, yeah. I made sure that they were aware of this business that I was pursuing, and that it was full disclosure. And so we made sure to incorporate that into our contracts so that they recognized that this was my technology I was bringing, that they didn't have stakes in that technology.
So that's one of the things we talked about with protection tips from Tom.
Absolutely.
Make sure that you protect yourself when you have an idea and you're working for somebody else. You have to be careful. So that was a good proactive step that really saved you a lot of time and a lot of money.
Did they come after you for to sign one of those that anything you might invent would be theirs?
Oh yeah, that's pretty typical in any of the, especially larger businesses. But in the high-tech world, we have to do that with our employees and contractors as well.
So you're able to negotiate it with employers. People might not know. A lot of people just sign it because, hey, I want the job, so I'm going to sign it.
Right. I mean, that's to your point earlier. You just have to keep your eyes open and look for these different things. I mean, it's so critical just to always be on the ball.
Yeah.
So what happened then? You got laid off, and you just decided to open up a door, your business one day?
Well, again, it takes a while to get some funding and get things rolling. So I ended up, even after being laid off from Kohler, which I worked much more than full-time doing just that, plus having the twin boys, how do you find the time to pursue everything?
Right.
Fortunately, I had already, as I first got to Wisconsin, started to explore the entrepreneurial landscape of the state and started reaching out to folks with the New North. That tied me into some folks who are involved with the A-Team.
In Sheboygan.
Involved with the Wisconsin Innovation Network, the Wisconsin Entrepreneurs Network, the Small Business Development Center, and I learned about all of these different groups that could serve as resources to me.
And just so our listeners are aware, the A-Team is actually a committee of the Sheboygan Chamber, and what they do, it's a committee of business owners who get together with people like Jeff and will kind of critique and help them put together their business plan.
Kind of a feasibility study of your plan and your invention. And,
Everything from financing to marketing. Right. Give you some feedback as to what they think.
I think Whitewater had Wisconsin University had a great program for inventors. And I know the Fox Valley Tech has a Fab Lab, they call it. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I am, yes. And at Whitewater with WISC, the Wisconsin Innovation Service Center, I actually did some work with them, and they helped out with some of the components of our business plan. And, just absolutely fantastic. But as I was working and learning that landscape, I started to build some of the foundation for the business, but I still needed the resources to support the family.
Right.
So I ended up doing some teaching as an adjunct faculty member at the University of Wisconsin-Stout in their engineering technology department. And actually, we've continued on and received several grants in collaboration with Stout that have helped support our business and R&D efforts. I also taught a course at EW Sheboygan in their engineering program as well.
Okay.
So these things.
Well, being tied in with academia along the way certainly doesn't hurt the cause either. But
no, and that's a great resource for advisors, especially in the high-tech medical space.
Oh yeah,
and that's a great example of flexibility. You know, he had this vision, but based on circumstances in his life, he had to make sure he had income. So he used those sources. He got teaching jobs and then used those teaching jobs to help fulfill
which is not
his dream.
Unlike most entrepreneurs. They've got to find ways to, because when they start up something, it's not going to give them an income until many months or sometimes years down the road. So people got to be ready for that. And what do you do in the meantime? You got to eat. Your family's got to eat. You got 2 baby boys. So
what did you do during that phase?
Well, I mean, it's didn't eat sometimes, but no, it is a financial struggle to be an entrepreneur, and unless you're independently wealthy, which I wish I was, but you have to find ways to bootstrap to make everything work.
Right.
I mean, we've tapped into just about every non-traditional funding means possible, from various grants to loans. Even one of our collaborators, who's the director of the Wisconsin the UW Tech Transfer Office, or WISIS, really did some great things with us to help find some new funding pathways, and we were able to tap into some legislatively appropriated funding to help support the business.
So that does work.
It does. It's a long process, and you need the right champions for that.
Sure.
And me, as kind of a backer and supporter of it, helping to pave the process for others. So we tapped into it, but also equally as importantly, helping to pave that way for others.
Now, along the way, one of our questions, of course, with Tom today was protecting your idea as you're disclosing it to people, and you had to disclose it along the way to a lot of people. So,
yes.
Were you at any point feel that somebody could grab this and say, "Hey, so long, Charlie, we got this," and we're
well, that's the idea behind the patents, is that you do protect yourself. So you set a priority date when you turn in your materials, and that gets established as your point where you can defend everything from there.
Right.
Your ability to defend, though, is dependent on your finances. So it's important to have backers for these types of things. We do have a couple of patents on our own, which Tom Wilhelm did a fantastic job at helping to get our first patent issued and to develop the next application.
Right.
Great guy to work with. But we, with our last 3 patent applications, jointly filed those with the University of Wisconsin system. So it's essentially an insurance arm that helps us protect the ideas, but they're also a collaborator, and we work with the researchers there. We've even gotten some funding through them.
Okay.
But we, back to your original inquiry on this, we have actually had some ideas stolen. Back in the day, early on, submitted a application for an award program for some new inventions, and almost word for word, somebody pulled some of the information that I had submitted to that and started a company up that was a vibration-based company, but fortunately it was going after a more ambulatory population, people that can walk and move about. But yeah, I saw that early on, and that really made me realize the importance of protecting
You're
ideas.
putting it at risk when it goes out there. Yeah.
So the CDAs, NDAs, those are very important.
Well, so we'll talk a little bit about, because now you had to go through a very expensive process to get this patented, a lot of money invested at this point, and now you got to figure out how to market the product, and there's a lot of things that have to be addressed yet. You don't just go out there and tell the world, "Okay, world, it's here. Attack me and come to the door."
Right, and some things you do under the radar. You work with your team, and the team is absolutely critical. You can't do everything on your own. It requires knowing what you don't know in order to pull the right people in the right places to pull it off.
And that's a great statement. You know, a lot of business owners try to do it all.
Sure,
and it's really important to know what you don't know and get help in the right places.
Okay, we're talking with Jeff Leismer. He is a PhD, founder and chief technical officer of a company called VibeTech. We're coming right back. You're on America's All Business Talk Show on the radio. I've got you under my skin. Oh, yeah. There we go. Nothing like a little singing here. Okay, we are talking with Jeff Leismer. He is the founder and CTO of a company called VibeTech. And, Jeff, we talked everything about how you came up with this idea and how you got into business, but we didn't describe what it is, the product is. So listeners may be going, well, what is it? So let give you the floor on that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so the product that we developed, we had several requirements for this to make sure that it could be usable by patients that really were immobile or just had no means of doing weight-bearing physical activity.
Right.
And these are the individuals that are suffering from atrophy. It could be somebody that's had an injury, ankle sprain. They could have broken a bone in their legs. They could have had a knee replacement, hip replacement, whatever it may be. Or it could just be older age, becoming less active, leading to some of that atrophy. So we had to design a device that would fit the needs of these patients and essentially provide all of the benefits of weight-bearing physical activity without requiring their physical exertion. So after doing some experimentation, being my own guinea pig, figuring out what works and what doesn't, and for example, the very first prototype I built, in 10 minutes, I completely worked my leg to fatigue. Felt like I did about 1,000 leg presses without putting forth any effort whatsoever. So I knew I had fine-tuned things appropriately.
And Jeff, just so everybody understands, not only does it vibrate, but you found the sound wave or whatever technical term you used.
The right frequencies.
The right frequency.
Yeah.
There you go. That stimulates the muscle.
Right, and so I wasn't the first to do it. I had uncovered this on my own, but through research after, I found out that cosmonauts had been doing this back since the 60s. Some of the Olympians from over that way too had used this as a sports performance enhancement tool. I just kind of rediscovered this application, but in a way of formulating the device, though, some of the things that I had done were very unique and novel to enable this to be a completely effortless workout.
Sure.
So essentially what you do is you put a compressive load on the legs to simulate standing. So you have partial body weight loading, and we make that completely adjustable. So you can work with a patient who's just had an injury, or you can work with somebody that's entirely healthy. You can then set the vibration parameters to be patient-specific also. And the frequency that we're using is actually one that increases muscle force development the most passively. So we've done some experimentation to figure that out. But I mean, our device is fully robust, so we can change that too. But we made it simple for clinicians to use. That was one of our keys as well.
Yeah.
This will be used by physical therapists providing treatment to patients with mobility impairments to fight that disuse atrophy and functional decline.
And it could be anybody from somebody who maybe has arthritis or something like that to somebody who's healing from a surgery or,
But they're off their feet for
bone
legs
or
for a long
knee
time.
or whatever, yeah.
Now, does this replace? I picture a lot of the therapy being people, in water, trying to fight against the resistance of water underwater, and that's the physical part of this.
Yep.
There's
So
nothing like that. So
right. So I mean, you could buy yourself an aquatic therapy pool for a couple $100,000 and maintain that, and you require everyone to exert themselves. One thing though is nothing beats that relaxation of hopping in that water and that great feeling you have.
Sure.
But with our equipment though,
with a martini.
That's right. Well, we could put cup holders in our device.
There you go.
But really though, this serves as an adjunctive treatment. So we don't expect that patients will stop doing other forms of therapy. We anticipate this as being something to really give a jump start to those patients that have no other option. Physical exertion is required in pretty much every other thing except for electrical stimulation. Electrical stimulation you can use to keep the muscles active, but everyone that I know that has ever tried it has said that it's very uncomfortable or painful. And even NASA did a bunch of research with it to maintain muscle mass and found that it had to be very uncomfortable or painful. The voltage had to be high enough. So patients didn't use that. People don't use that.
Feel like you're getting a huge electric shock? Is that kind of...
Well, you can tune it, but using mechanical vibration to elicit natural stretch reflexes in the muscles, particularly for the strength and postural muscles of the body, is what we've done. So we've fine-tuned the treatment delivery to be able to work progressively with the patient from the point where they're in a wheelchair to the point where we can get them out of the wheelchair and active and functionally independent.
And let me ask you a question, since you mentioned the word pain. Is there pain in the treatment?
This is a pain-free treatment. We've actually found that...
I like it already.
The patients that we've had through here that have had arthritis have said, oh, well, that reduced the pain. Personally, my low back pain is gone as a result of this. There were maybe 1 or 2 days a year I didn't notice low back pain, but I use this, and if I use it at least once a week, 10 minutes at a time, that's it, I can keep that back pain at bay. So.
You know, I think back, and many years ago I got into a car accident and had wound up in traction in a hospital, off of your legs for a while. And I think it was a fractured pelvic or something like that. And I remember getting the first time I had to stand up, getting out of bed after being off my legs for a long time. I felt exactly what you're talking about. I hit the deck.
Yeah.
And they told me not to try to get up too fast.
Right, and that's an experience that a lot of people have. So
–
if we can get something to those patients early on to prevent that atrophy, that way, when they are able to get back on their feet, they can go about their daily activities and start participating in the physical activity or physical therapies that they need to get better and speed up that
See,
healing
this
process.
is a physical law. Either you use it or you lose it.
That's right.
So people that sit around.
That's right. So, Jeff, I mean, you went through this whole thing. I mean, a story of starting, bootstrapping yourself with this great idea. So where's your business today, and where are you going?
Well, right now we are actually in the process of getting our first production run off the assembly line. So that's coming within the next month. We'll have our first product rolling off the production line.
And is it manufactured where?
In Wisconsin.
In Wisconsin.
Oh,
We'd
good
like
for
to
you.
hear that.
Yeah, it's a local.
So
local guy
fantastic.
makes good. You even keep the manufacturing. No Chinese involved in this.
Yeah, right. So I mean, that's the idea. Is we wanted the quality. We wanted to be able to tap into the service of a regional company to be able to pull this off. And our goal is to, in the next 10 years, have this as the standard of care for disuse atrophy and functional decline, in particular in patients with mobility impairments.
So starting out, your target market really is where?
Well, we're targeting nursing homes who have a lot of money that they can make off this through Medicare Part A patient billing, Medicare B billing as well, outpatient physical therapy clinics, outpatient centers and hospitals. We're also proposing some studies at several hospitals across the state right now that might even demonstrate reduced length of stay for inpatient rehab at the hospital setting. So cost savings as well as lots of money to be made by facilities.
So, Jeff, you are the CTO, and people might not recognize that, Chief Technology Officer.
Yes.
I mean, do you go out on these sales calls?
I do, and I figure there's no better way than for me as the inventor of the technology that's getting this business up and operational to go out and get that personal
You're
feedback.
kind of the Stephen Jobs of the biotechnology world here.
Right. I mean, for me, developing new technologies. I do it with the support of some great individuals that I've brought on board. But to me, I feel I have to get involved with a number of these different activities so I can see it for myself. True, if I go to a customer, it's as the founder of the company, it's a little different than a sales rep going out to them.
Right.
But I do go out with the sales reps, particularly to the first meetings where I can, and I'm there to provide that crucial, connection about the physiology and how the technology works.
But there again, you're not doing it yourself. You have somebody else who's more schooled or more practiced in sales.
I've learned a lot from those guys.
And
It's great.
you kind of add to that whole process.
Well,
That's the idea.
you help augment what they're doing.
Exactly. That was the word I was looking for. Easy for you to say.
Well, before we go, I want to, every week we ask our guests to throw a little biz tip out there for our listening. You probably got a bunch of them, so but one good one maybe we'll do today.
Well, I thank you for giving me this opportunity. Now,
oh, we're delighted to have you. It's a great thing to learn about this. So,
good.
yeah.
Well, so for the fellow entrepreneurs out there that are pursuing ideas, you have to be passionate. You have to be tenacious. You can't do it all on your own. There are people that are better at what they do than what you think you know how to do. And also, you also have to be able to, I guess, put yourself or give faith to others to do these things for you. I mean, these are some of the most critical things that we have to do. And if you can discuss your business ideas with people, let them know where you're going, where you're headed, and let them know some of those obstacles that you're having coming up in the near future, they will be more prone to help you out. So talk about your ideas. Get
People
the word out.
People want to help. They really want to help.
They do.
Well, I think you started out the show talking about never quit.
That's
and
right.
That somewhat ties into what Jeff just said here.
It absolutely does.
Good
so,
stuff.
Jeff, just real quickly, because we're running out of time, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Well, they can visit our website at www.vibetechglobal.com. That's VibeTechGlobal.com. Or they can email us at answers@vibetechglobal.com.
Jeff, thanks for coming in today and being on the show. This has been a great experience for all of us, so thank you.
Well, thank you guys
Thank
so
you
much.
very much.
Okay, that's our show. Again, another inspirational show, and it goes too fast, Ron. I don't know
really
about
does.
this stuff. So, all right, we'll be back next week, and please tell us who our mystery entrepreneur is. Just go to bizconnectionwi.com and shoot it out to us, and I'll send you a nice gift.
That's right.
So,
Wisconsin Dells. That's all you got to remember.
there you go. All right, we'll see you next week. Have a great one.
Someday